Welcome back, Cindy Dole, here on Home Wizards, where we'd love to help you just improve your home and improve your life. The spaces that you call home, whether it's inside or outside, and on a day like today when it's kind of on the warm side, you may be more inside, or maybe you're outside just trying to keep it cool. But thanks for hanging out with me this Saturday. And when you think about trying to just be comfortable wherever you live in terms of the temperature, insulation is such a key to it, right? It's going to be key in terms of maximizing the air conditioning and the heating and all that you have in your home. But we're always on the lookout, though, for somebody that's new and innovative, and we love to talk about it. So when you discover options that are not only insulation, but it's also pest control, and it's green, it's like, wow, what are they doing here? So I thought we'd talk about it. With me is Brandon Ansley with a company called TAP, and thanks for being here, Brandon.
Thank you, Cindy. The pleasure's mine. I've heard great things about your show.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, well, first, let's just talk about insulation. I mean, there's many different types. I was up in the attic recently, just checking out our heating and air conditioning and all that's going on up there. And then we also checked out just the insulation. It's probably due for new insulation for us. It's not a very sexy thing to think about investing in, But there's the basic blankets, right?
Right. There are what they call batted insulation.
Yeah.
The traditional insulation that's generally installed.
Yeah. Are you loving that? Are you loving the batted kind?
I'm sorry?
Are you loving that particular method?
Not really.
No.
I don't. I mean, there's some inherent difficulties with batted insulation because when you lay it down, because of the way that it's formulated, there's some. It can't really get into all the cracks and crevices and nooks and crannies. So it really leaves holes for air to come in and out, which reduces the effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that blown-in insulation is probably the best bet these days because it blows in and it fills every possible nook and cranny,
mm-hmm.
so that it slows the transfer of heat, which is what insulation does. So as far as the best type, I think the blown-in is probably a little more effective.
Mm-hmm. What about the kind of rigid insulation that you see?
Yeah, the rigid insulation, as far as, if we're talking about attics, I mean, it'd be very difficult to go cut rigid insulation. There's lots of wires and holes and studs and cavities and things like that. So, really you'd have to cut each individual piece, and it might take you a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. I mean, rigid, it does well in other places. I mean, there's some crawl space applications for rigid insulation, and other different ways. It really depends upon where in the structure you're looking and really what you're looking for.
I mean, I know that a lot of people aren't in their attic. I mean, it's like, who wants to go up there? I mean, you might every now and then to change one of your filters,
Right.
and or you just might go up there with your heating and air conditioning professional. They're going to show you some stuff, like that's what happened at our house. And I was just amazed at how old the insulation is in our attic and how it looks like in places where it's being taped together. It just looks like we need to overhaul that, and it's almost overwhelming because that can't be cheap.
No, it's not. It's really not. I mean, it's not necessarily cheap on the front end, but when you think about it, it's very cheap because it actually
energy efficient.
It's going to save you on your heating and air conditioning bills.
Right.
And therefore, over time, it really pays for itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the upfront cost, it is certainly a bit of an investment, but as far as over time, I think you're looking at a great investment.
Mm-hmm. All right. And so the product that you guys are working with, it's made out of recycled paper.
That's correct.
And that is your method of insulation.
Correct.
And how does that work?
Well, it's a cellulose-based insulation, and then cellulose insulation, by itself has been around for about 30 or 40 years, and what our product does, and what most of the cellulose these days does, is it diverts paper that is on its way to a landfill, and it sends it through a manufacturing process that through a disc mill, explodes the fibers. Our product is then treated for fire resistance, and then with a natural pest control. And the product is traditionally, most often it's blown in on top of existing insulation in people's attics, and it provides. It obviously helps with the, existing insulation and with your heating and air bills, but it also provides a permanent layer of pest protection in what we call the thermal envelope of a house.
Now, how does that? So it's treated with some kind of a chemical, then?
That's right. That's right. I mean, I guess technically it is considered a chemical. It's treated with boric acid, which is another product that's been around for generations as far as a pest control product. But when people think of chemical, they immediately think, oh my gosh, I don't want to put chemicals everywhere.
Right.
It's very different from a synthetic pesticide that acts as a true poison, in the sense that it actually, and I don't want to go into too much detail, and I'm not an entomologist, but it performs a mechanical kill on self-grooming insects. So when insects crawl through the insulation, it attaches to their bodies. And then when they groom themselves, they ingest this boric acid, and it stops their digestive process. But I know when you hear chemical, people certainly get a little bit iffy. But as far as we're very sensitive to that. But as far as the toxicity, if you will, it's another scary word. But if you look at it on the scientific toxicity scale, it's slightly more toxic than ordinary table salt.
Oh.
So we're really not talking about a real lethal chemical.
Right. It's a friendly chemical.
There you go.
But not friendly to pests, including termites, you're saying.
That's exactly right.
So this insulation is going to prevent us from having to tent our home? That can't be.
No. And I want to be very clear about that.
It minimizes it.
It provides a kill, if you will. It provides a kill to a termite that comes into contact with the insulation. And so, to the extent that you may have other avenues of entrance into the home where a termite wouldn't contact the insulation, then it wouldn't affect that particular insect. But with drywood termites, out in California, that often get into the attic, it's very effective.
So is it kind of a combination thing? You'd have this to kind of keep the problem at bay, but then you might need to, amp things up a little bit and have a pesticide company come out.
That's right, especially if you had a problem.
Uh-huh.
This isn't going to stop an existing problem, but it's one of our the pest control industry, I think, is changing a little bit, and instead of whenever there is a problem, come in, spray some synthetic chemicals, and then hope that it dissipates the situation. The pest control industry, particularly in California, is transitioning a little bit to more preventative methods of pest control and proactive, where you can stop a potential problem, on the front end, as opposed to waiting for a problem and then having to use a lot of traditional pesticides.
So how long does this basically recycled paper that's been sprinkled with a form of salt, as you describe it, that's a type of acid that is a very friendly chemical.
Right.
How long does that work to keep the pests away?
Surprisingly, and it took me a while to really grasp this, but it actually, as long as it's left undisturbed, it will last for the life of the structure. It's not. Like I said, it's not a traditional chemical that may dissipate. It's more like a dust or a salt, and because it's a mechanical kill, which means that it's disrupting the digestive process, and because of that, the insects can't develop a tolerance to it, and there's sufficient quantities in our product to last for the life of the structure.
So you're talking about everything from, one of my favorite bugs, the cockroach,
yeah,
to ants and
Absolutely.
Termites.
Absolutely.
But it won't help with rodents.
That's right. It does not. Our product is not labeled to keep rodents out of an attic, and I don't think you'd want to either, because you don't want to kill a rodent and then have it.
Oh, we'll have them stay up there. That's
right.
true. Yeah.
Right. But it affects what they call self-grooming insects, which are the insects that actually, they lick their limbs and then groom themselves, and when they do that, that's how they ingest this chemical. And like you said, ants, termites, cockroaches, silverfish.
Interesting. And so we don't have to take out our existing insulation. It's just this is added on top of it.
Correct. And there is one caveat. I mean, if there has been an existing problem, if you've had rodents in the attic, or if you've had some type of other situation, you may want to have it removed because there could be urine or feces or something.
Oh God. La 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 la. That's gross.
I apologize.
It's okay. It's all right. I know I've been up in there. I've seen it, and I've been down below underneath the house, so I've been amongst them.
Yeah, and those could be significant health hazards. So you want to get that out, have it
I understand.
disinfected and sanitized, and then have new insulation put in. But generally speaking, 9 times out of 10, you can put it right on top of existing insulation.
Very interesting. And what does this typically cost for a home of maybe, I don't know, a home for 3 people?
Sure. Well, that's a difficult question to answer because
I know
because some people need more insulation than others. So sometimes you're putting, for example, you'd be putting 12 inches in. Sometimes you're putting 6 inches in. But generally speaking, it should cost, and this is an average, depending on how much you put in, about $1 to $1.25 per square foot of attic space, and which generally, depending upon what section of the country you're talking about, would be, most attics maybe 1,500 square feet average.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right. Well, people can go to your website, which is?
It is www.tapinsulation.com, TAPinsulation.com.
Interesting. All right. Well, Brandon, Ansley, thanks for answering all our questions and making us smarter. We can basically have insulation and pest control in one. So
absolutely.
Thank you. That's genius.
Very much. I appreciate it.
You got it. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about the permits that you probably didn't realize that you need to have for that dream project that is just kind of dancing around in that head of yours. Wait till you hear about it. Cindy Dole, Home Wizards, and we're back right after this on KFWB News Talk 980. Welcome back. Listening to Home Wizards. I hope you're having a hot stuff kind of day. Cindy Dole here, where we love to put a smile on your face as we talk about what I love the best, and that's really the most important place in the world where you live. So hopefully these are giving you some ideas to improve the spaces you call home, inside and outside. And boy, I am so inspired to try making my own flavored vinegar after that chat last hour when we got some ideas on how to basically use the things in your garden. It could be anything from herbs to berries to whatever, and you just add it to a cup of really great white wine vinegar or red wine vinegar, and you heat it up, and then you strain it, and then you put it in a great glass jar with a metal lid, and you wait a few weeks, and baby, you're in there for some good vinegar. So all kinds of fun ideas you always get here on the show. Now, if you're thinking about doing a great project, you're probably in that dreamy, oh, I can't wait for my new kitchen, my new bedroom, my new whatever it is. Maybe it's even your new deck. Your outdoor living experience is going to be enhanced. But one of the least sexy parts of improving your home is a necessity. And often we get into a home project and we may even forget, or we just kind of put off thinking about it. And that is a permit. I know, it's not a very sexy word, is it? But it's so important. Why is it? What is it? And really, is it for everything? Well, we're getting ready for a kitchen project in our home that we're going to be talking about quite a bit in the coming weeks. I'm so excited to share that with you. But when you hear about a project that kind, you go, yeah, of course. Come on, that's obvious. No brainer. You need to have not only a permit, you have to have the blueprint of the home before and what's going to happen next. And you've got to show electrical and structural and all those codes for safety, right? Not to forget the ADA and wheelchair accessible thing, right? But let's talk about what else and where else permits would be needed as you plan and you dream for those great changes in the spaces you call home. Because, after all, it's all about safety, and it's all about, well, frankly, cities making a little extra buck along the way. And for the city and for the state and the federal government to make sure that all construction is within code, all right? So there even is a code for energy conservation. All right, so all these things combined add up to that permit. And basically, it's based on plumbing and mechanical and electrical and a combination, whether it's a single-family home or other small projects. But really, bottom line is most homeowner projects are going to require a combination permit. In addition, there is that whole demolition thing. You're going to relocate walls and things around the building that requires permits. And I know you're going to ask, boy, this sounds kind of expensive. And it kind of can be. It can go into the hundreds and maybe even several $1,000s depending. But let's figure out more about where and when you need a permit. So remodeling your home. Adding other improvements, decks, yes. Spas, yes. Retaining walls, yes. All building permits. How about a simple interior renovation, not moving any walls? No permit, right? Wrong. The warning is that it's very common, actually, for a building contractor to say, oh, yeah, you don't need a permit, but then that's untrue. Maybe perhaps the contractor wasn't up to speed on the new laws, or they don't want to bother. But the truth is, just about everything requires a building permit. Again, anything plumbing, electric. The permit will say that all the plumbing and all the electric must be done by the folks who are licensed in these specialties. So important. Now, when you file for the permit, the inspector with the city where you live is going to review your plans to see that the building code is being followed. And then there's going to usually be an on-site inspection by a general building inspector, along with the plumbing and electrical inspectors if it's applicable. But then there are no guarantees that the inspector will notice any building code violations. The city is not that accountable. So, if you ignore the permitting process and you do obvious and significant work, guess what? You are really screwed because your investment in your property now is illegal, probably, and then that's going to take away from the value of your property. So what happens if you just ignore it? Can you get away with it? You may be able to get away with it. Doing some unpermitted work, if your conscience can live with it. Maybe your neighbor doesn't like hearing all the construction noise and they're going to file a complaint if they aren't your good friend. Problems can also arise if you apply later for the additional permits and then the building inspector says, uh-oh, there was previous unpermitted extension, for example. Or be aware that without a permit, you're putting a lot of trust in the work of the contractor who may already have told you that, well, it's kind of a bit of a white lie, that if you're doing major work like adding square footage or enclosing a lanai, well, you are strongly advised to follow the city's straight guidelines. So how do you know? You want to make sure you go to your city's Department of Planning and Permitting. You pick up the brochure, you get all the paperwork, you can go online to the city's website, and you can download the information and just get smart. But unless you know the rules, you really could become a sad, true story. And I've encountered a lot of them, and here's a sample of some of them. How you like this one? Extensions that go too far into the side or the rear setback of a single-family home that might have to be torn down. The requirements are going to vary with the zoning, but most residential neighborhoods require there to be at least about 5 feet from the side and the rear walls of the home to the lot line. Replacement windows that have a smaller opening than the older ones. They do not provide the legally required ventilation, such as changing out windows for sliding windows, which cuts the ventilation in half. Needed a permit for that. How about lanai enclosures? Red flag. An enclosed lanai in a condo building where they are not allowed by the condo association, or lanai in a single-family home that have been enclosed without adding the electrical outlets and lighting required by the building codes. And then kitchen facilities. You can't add a kitchen to more than one portion of your home. Did you know that? You're only allowed to have one full kitchen. Not talking about the outdoor kitchen, but inside the home. And if the fixtures add up to more than one kitchen, this violates the zoning of most of the residential areas. Oh, and then pool fencing. Still summertime, thinking about the pool, would you have a fence? Well, the fencing that doesn't provide the required safety features like the approved height, as well as the self-closing hinges on the pool gates, guess what? Guess who will be liable if a tragedy occurs? And this is something you probably didn't even think of. Indoor electrical fixtures or outlets installed outside. This is a reason why plumbing and electrical installations always require building permits for health and safety reasons. And did you know that improperly installed ceiling fans that could fall onto the bed or the dining room table while people are under it? Yes, if you go by the book, even installing a ceiling fan requires a building permit. So the important message here is to be informed on when a building permit is required before you do the work on your home, so you understand the choices. And if you aren't sure, just call the building department in your city. And it's a wise idea that building permits are easier to get than they used to be, so make a smart choice. And if you're changing the floor plan, it'll be especially obvious if you ever sell your home, and it will detract from the value. The buyer's appraiser is surely going to detract the value from the unpermitted portions of the home, which could make selling for market value very, very difficult. And if work being performed doesn't conform to code, you are on your own, and you may be incurring some liability and some steep penalties later on. So here are some tips. Make sure you hire licensed contractors, you know that, who will follow the code. Remember that if the work being done conforms to the building code, getting it permitted is a no-brainer and really worth the time and the investment. You can get a permit yourself, even if your contractor won't. Bring a copy of your plans to that City Department of Building and Permitting and Planning. For the preliminary review, they'll tell you, they'll give you the straight scoop. And if you're too late, well, if you already have work that was done without permits, it's not too late completely. You can obtain an after-the-fact building permit if the work conforms to building codes. or it can be modified to meet the codes. There's some special companies that'll do all this for you. They'll draw up the plans, they'll obtain the permits, and they'll even arrange for any of that work that might be needed to bring your project up to current building codes. So phew, that's good news, right? But it's going to cost you. You could hear the dollars coming, couldn't you? It's going to cost you more than if you'd done this from the start, especially with the plumbing and the electrical involved, and that all could be worthwhile. So there are several different kinds of permits. Again, you want to think about the structural, the plumbing, mechanical, electrical, the combination, and just get it into your head that most homeowner dreams and projects that we talk about are going to probably require a combination permit. And just getting one is the first step in the process. You may need to create plans to submit to the department and make a plot plan for your property, showing the improvements and showing the type of the construction. And then the city, they have the handouts to help you through the process. And once it's all approved, you're going to be required to build the projects to those plans. Oh, and don't forget the second half of the process. They're going to come and look. The inspection part, okay? So if you need further help, you can always email me. Just go to Cindy@cindydole.com and just go to the website, cindydole.com. So coming up next Saturday, more of the good stuff as we help you figure out the ways to improve the spaces you call home inside and outside. We're going to be talking about how to know if some of the antiques that you may have in your home are of value. I always think that there's some great things that you might have collected, and maybe it's so valuable you don't want to get rid of it, or maybe you want to sell it on eBay. So we're going to talk about that, and also some great interior and exterior ideas to help you just love the place you call home. Check out the website, cindydole.com. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and check in and join the conversation that goes through the week. Have a fabulous the rest of your Saturday and Sunday, and remember this, the key is under the mat. Bye-bye.
See the paper laying on the sidewalk, a little music from the house next door.
I'd say that was a pretty successful broadcast.